Hi, my name's Lily and welcome to Small Talk. I'm here based in Barcelona, and since I'm a British resident living in the European Union, I'm in the last few months of our prep here for Britain to leave the EU. Am I prepared? Well, no. So what exactly is going on in the UK? So where have we come from? Can you remember that Brexit referendum back in 2016? We had a different Prime Minister then, and we've had a few in between. So David Cameron, we voted to leave the EU back then. Then we had Theresa May, and she took over, and we had that slogan. We had Brexit means Brexit, and she signed a withdrawal agreement with the EU. And this detailed what things would look like whilst we were negotiating how to actually leave the EU, which is going to happen on the 31st of December. So the withdrawal agreement was negotiated by the previous government, Theresa May. I'll link it above. And now we have moved on to Boris Johnson's configuration of Brexit. We're in our third Prime Minister for Brexit, and we've moved into the get Brexit done phase. So we are full steam ahead for the 31st of December. That means that on the 1st of January, we will have exited, and there doesn't look like there's going to be an extension of the transition period, which is what had been happening under his predecessor. So as I said, we've had 3 prime ministers, but on the other side of the Atlantic, we've also seen 3 presidents. Well, the next one is would-be president. But this process started with Obama. Let's not forget that. And he sent a heartfelt plea to the UK to stay in Europe. Can't think why, but it does tend to be useful for the Americans to have Britain in the UK. As a sort of bridge. Then we have President Trump, who was very much on the Brexit bandwagon, so much so that he's become pretty chummy with Nigel Farage, often inviting him to speak at Republican events and I think even at the Republican convention. And you can see that definitely our Brexit policy started to reflect this kind of Trump being in the White House and this assumption that we would have a pretty strong ally once we leave the EU and that trade deals would be prioritized. Now, as we all know, Trump has lost the election this month, and we actually have Joe Biden entering the White House in January, which has put spanners in the works for the way I think that Boris Johnson's government has been kind of moving with Brexit, because Biden has said that he's not supportive of Britain leaving the EU. Obviously, it's happening, but he is also an Irish president. He's extremely concerned about the Good Friday Agreement and what Brexit means for Northern Ireland. And this will come up because I'm going to be talking about the Internal Market Bill, which is all about that too. So, where are we at now? We are apparently entering a critical week for negotiations between the EU and the UK. Okay, so as I said before, the withdrawal agreement that we had agreed before with Theresa May, this set out the terms of, how the negotiations should proceed, but also it had some things included in it which, if negotiations failed and we had a no deal, it also talked about some of the provisions that would need to be inside to protect a borderless island of Ireland. Okay, so to maintain there being no border between Northern Ireland within the UK and the Republic of Ireland. President of the European Commission, that's Ursula von der Leyen, she has said that there has been more movement in the last few days than there has been in the previous difficult weeks. We've seen a lot of information in this autumn that's kind of sounds like things have been dragging, that neither side is very happy with where things are going and what's coming out. And we've constantly been warned that no deal is really on the horizon. This sort of possibility that was supposed to never happen when Brexit was first advertised to the public, and now it seemed like it was an inevitability. This seems like there is this gap now where actually we could see a razor-thin deal agreed between the UK and the EU. So what are some of the issues that are still outstanding, the main sticking points? Well, there's a huge issue around competition rules. Obviously, the EU having, an economy trading right on its doorstep that could drive standards down or sort of cut the competition. They're very worried about that. So it's about keeping a level playing field. This is a sticking point. There is also how the new rules will be implemented. And then, of course, which never seems to go away and which really features with Brexit, fishing. So we've entered the last stage, and what exactly is on the table? Basically a razor-thin deal or no deal, which is where the negotiations are not able to reach a deal and the UK crashes out of Europe on the 31st of December anyway, okay? Now, I want to talk a little bit about this internal market bill. So the internal market bill actually dates back to the 1700s, when the union between England, Scotland and Wales meant that they had to set up an internal market so that trade could happen seamlessly and it was open and unhindered. Now, after joining the EU, most of these responsibilities then got transferred to the EU. For the last few decades, the EU has been setting trade policies on behalf of the UK. Now, what happens when we crash out? Basically, hypothetically, the internal nations of the UK could have different trading standards compared to each other. And this is something that Boris Johnson's government wants to legislate. Now, this is controversial, obviously, because it seems to interfere with the devolved institutions of the other nations that make up the UK, giving a little bit too much power to the centralised government again in Westminster. Not only that, this internal market bill is seen as a direct threat to the Good Friday Agreement and Northern Ireland because it seems to kind of row back on the promises made by Theresa May's withdrawal agreement, which is an internationally ratified treaty. So it rows back, which would be seen as breaking international law. It's a way of protecting the territorial integrity of the UK, according to Michael Gove, but also it's seen as an aggression to the devolved powers and also destabilising when it comes to the question of Ireland. Now, if you're confused about why this always involves Ireland and what no deal and the Irish backstop, I do have a video that explains that in great detail, so I'll link it above just to make this one a little bit more simple. Now, the bill was first published on the 9th of September and it passed the House of Commons third reading on the 29th of September. With a big majority because the Conservatives have an 80-seat majority at the moment. However, this has not saved it from criticism from all sides of the political spectrum. The fact of the matter is that this internal market bill actually seems to unilaterally set aside some of the agreements made in the withdrawal agreement. Now, I repeat this because it is breaking international law. It's a precedent that's being set. Now, it was defeated in the Lords on November 9th by something like 407 to 165. Now, this is huge defeat, and especially they threw out those clauses that seem to affect the legislation previously passed and ratified with the EU, the withdrawal agreement. Now, these clauses could be re-added next month and reintroduced into Parliament and voted on, but this would be seen as a real provocation to the EU, and also Biden would not be pleased. When this internal market bill, I'd like to make a point of this, when this internal market bill was being touted before, I think that most people assumed they would have an ally in President Trump. Now, this being kind of done away with, it is going to be very brave, let's say, of the government to piss off this many international allies and also internal turbulence. So back to where we're at now. If, let's say, if a trade deal is managed to be agreed, it has to basically, the original date was the 26th of November. I imagine it would still have to be very, very soon after that. So really, we're looking in the next 2 weeks. Why does it have to be so early when we're not leaving until the 31st of December? It's because this trade deal needs to be ratified by each individual EU member parliament and then back also by the EU Parliament and also the UK Parliament. So that's a lot of work to be done in a very short schedule. And there's Christmas. Okay, so what do I think is going to happen? It's actually really difficult, and even my opinion changes week by week. At the beginning of the year, I would have said President Trump would have continued to have been president and that the UK was heading for no deal and could have possibly broken into international law by ramming through that internal market bill. But as with politics, events, things change. So now that you have President Biden and also what with the comings and goings in the last few weeks, things have really changed inside Downing Street, or the opinion and the mood. Much of the vote leave camp, which had been very powerful inside Downing Street and inside the UK government advising Boris Johnson, have left or are on their way out. They are a weakened faction. Whether that will affect the Brexit policy, I'm not so sure. We are in the final few moments. The other thing is that for these parties to reach an agreement, we would have to assume that they were rational and that would be in their interests. Now, it does look to be in the economic interests of the EU and the UK to agree to a deal, because obviously no deal is damaging to both parties, the UK more so. But is it actually that politically beneficial to reach a deal. You see, if you come away with a deal that is not actually that great, both sides take the blame for having conceded. But if you come away with no deal, you held on to your positions and you can actually blame the bad faith of the other side, something that EU negotiators and UK negotiators would be able to do. So I'm not sure that there would be actually that much political harm to a no deal, because the base of the Brexit core would be happy that it was followed to the letter, that this was always about sovereignty. And the EU can say, well, look at that bad actor UK, and this is what happens if you try to leave the EU. So it actually could work for both. However, we are told that a deal is imminent, and that the only way it wouldn't happen is because of something getting in the way. For example, COVID-19 forcing the negotiation teams to isolate. And as always, since our Prime Minister is Boris Johnson, it's very difficult to know what he would do. And I think that, it's not a case of Boris Johnson keeps his cards close to his chest. I actually believe that he struggles with decision making, and that he won't know in the final few days whether it is better to sign a deal, a razor-thin deal, or walk away with no deal at all. And I think it will have a lot to do with who's whispering in his ear and the people who are left alone in the room with him. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this today, and if you did, please give me a like. It really, really helps. Follow me on my social media. I will be posting more information and resources there. You can keep up to date when I'm not making videos. And if you'd like to see me again, please subscribe. I'd love to keep making videos. Thanks so much, and see you on the next one.